at the end of the day, we have to meet people where they are. So we have to
Mhm.
figure out what they need to thrive and be able to design a culture that's going to support the needs of everyone.
Audio Jungle.
Hello, and welcome to Business Focus, produced by the Greater Reston Chamber of Commerce. My name is Angela Inzerillo with Impact Business Solutions, and I'm privileged to be your host as we highlight the great work our local businesses are doing. Well, welcome to this week's episode. First of all, if you have not subscribed, you must subscribe now. And if you are a follower, we'd love for you to comment and share what we're doing here, because we're really highlighting some important work and some great people and businesses in the community. So thank you for doing that. So Jen Pasquale, the founder of Lead with Curiosity. Welcome to today's show. How are you, Jen?
Hey, Angela, it's great to be here with you. I'm good.
Good. A newfound friend. Jen joined the chamber not too long ago, got right involved, of course, kind of starting up a new business, but has been in business for a long time. I'm really excited to share what you're doing and have this conversation, because we're talking about people today. We're talking about culture and corporations and businesses, and businesses are all about people. So yeah, Jen. So how did you get to where you are today, especially with Lead with Curiosity?
Yeah, thank you, Angela. It's great to be here, and I do love the chamber, so I'm sure we'll get to talk about that as well. But
Okay.
so, Lead with Curiosity is, as a brand, a relatively new effort. So, launched earlier this year in 2024, but it is really kind of a coming back to my roots effort. So, I started my career in training and development, and spent about 20 years doing curriculum design, doing corporate training, kind of strategic communications, all of those pieces, and really love that work. And then as a military spouse, about 6 years ago, I ended up launching a different business around supporting spouses with their identity journey as they kind of walk
Mm.
alongside their service member, helping them figure out, who do they want to be? What's their journey going to look like, particularly after the family leaves service. And what that did is introduce me to strengths as a tool and as a concept, and as an assessment. And so I went and got certified with Gallup because I completely fell in love, and started doing some workshops with it, and realized that that was where I wanted to be. And so over time, I transitioned myself fully into more of a corporate facing business, where I'm using the strengths work and those strengths conversations to be able to help leaders and help teams be more effective.
That's wonderful. So for people that are not familiar with it, because I certainly wasn't, tell them a little bit more about the strengths, just to give people a quick insight.
Yeah, so there are several different strengths tools. The one that
Mhm.
I love and prefer is a Gallup tool. So a lot of folks know Gallup as a research organization, a polling
Yes.
organization, but they also have a really extensive workforce development arm. And so there's a lot of certified strengths coaches that have been trained by them on this tool that they've had for decades. And really what it's designed to do is help give you language for what you uniquely bring to the table. What are
Mhm.
your innate talents? And how do you communicate that to the people that you're working with, so that they can kind of help you show up in that way, and you can just feel a little bit more um, confident, I think, is what I
Mhm.
often see with people that learn their strengths. As you start to develop this confidence of, oh, this is what I was, this is what I was built for. And so I love seeing people kind of have that aha moment and be able to bring that into organizations.
It's not like your astrology chart, but when you read something and you're like, oh yeah, that is me, and it's nice to have it. James and I did DISC before we had started
Mhm.
our business, a bunch of years ago. And it really helped like define like who we are and how we show up. Right. And so that's an excellent tool for teams. So how do you embed that into the services that you provide?
Yeah, so from a service perspective, it fits in a couple different places. I do some individual coaching, so it certainly fits there. And then when with teams, what we tend to do is really look at the whole team. So not just what
Okay.
could they use from a strengths perspective, but how could we leverage some strengths language to help improve communication or help improve conflict. So it's really looking at strengths as this lens, not just this one thing, because there's a lot of different ways that leaning into strengths work can really impact, everything from productivity to absenteeism to,
Mhm.
just really the overall engagement of a team. So for me, it can look anything like doing offsites, or, doing long-term engagements where we're spending a little bit of time on an ongoing basis, continuing to invest in the team so that they can build better connections. So the projects look a lot of different ways, but it really comes down to what are the goals of the team? And then how can we leverage strengths as one tool to help the team achieve their goals?
What is it that, so I understand the tool a little bit better. What is it that the manager or the owner or how do they identify? Like, what is their challenge that they're seeing or that you're
Mm.
seeing that most of your clients have that they recognize, hey, I need to get this help or I need to do something?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. There's a couple kind of standard, if you will, for, at least for
Mhm.
my clients, like typical use cases. So one is where we have a team that really just is frankly dysfunctional, right? There is conflict within the team. The individual members are really struggling to collaborate well. They're missing deadlines. Like there's just not,
Mm.
maybe not productivity isn't where it needs to be. So that's certainly a situation where infusing kind of a new language can really help people see each other a little differently. I've seen it in so many sessions where someone will kind of, read through their peers report or see some of their talents, and you can see
Mhm.
the light bulb that goes off when they realize I have completely misunderstood you. And, maybe I thought you were questioning me and you didn't trust me, but actually it is this talent that you have that really helps us avoid pitfalls. And you are trying to operate in that space, and I am trying to pull you out of that space. And so part of it is really developing this awareness and appreciation
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
ourselves, but also of each other. So where you've got high conflict, that can be a very valuable tool to help them kind of get to the other side of some of those kind of core problems. I think the other use case that I see is in teams where maybe there's a growth. So either they're expanding, they're adding a lot of
Mm.
members, they really want to build some great cohesion from the beginning. And so bringing someone in to help do that in that early stage can be really valuable.
Right.
The third one that comes up often is where we have like a leadership shift. So maybe the team itself isn't changing, but maybe there's a new leader, which may have different expectations, different ways of working. And so bringing an effort like this in can help the leader understand the team they're inheriting a little differently, but it can also help the team understand like who are they working for and how does that person need to be communicated with? How can they really be, effective in working with that individual? So those are kind of the three that I see the most often. But then I also, do offsites and things like that where teams just, they really just want to kind of invest in their people in a really deliberate way. And so sometimes the team's fine, but we just want to build the team even stronger.
And do you see it? And I want to definitely talk about a couple of key components of a team, like, whether it be generational, male, female, we can have those conversations because I think it's important. And, everyone's coming back to the office now. So there's that conversation, right? How
Mm-hmm.
about doing kind of remote work and building teams? But what are some of the what are some of the things that you see the most when it is a team maybe of generational? Let's go there first because
Yeah.
I'm not saying people have different work ethics, but certainly different ages. But when you talk about strengths, the strengths of different people at different ages could be the same, right? So what does that mean?
No, it's interesting. So I attended a conference earlier this year that Gallup had put on, and they had a whole session that I absolutely loved around this topic, and it was
Hmm.
around generation, because I think there is a lot of kind of narrative on social media about all the different generations and a lot of labeling in a way that hasn't always been, I think, how we did it when we didn't have social media, right?
Hmm.
And so what Gallup really did, I thought, was an incredible job at sort of breaking down what's really truly differences and what is just sort of this perception of difference. And what I took away from that, and I think really could benefit organizations, really is two things. One is at the end of the day, we have to meet people where they are. So we have to
Hmm.
figure out what they need to thrive and be able to design a culture that's going to support the needs of everyone. And the reality is, to your point, we've got a lot of generations sort of under one roof in an organization. And so strengths does become this really interesting equalizer where if you and I both have a deliberative as one of our key talents, while we may work a little differently and have different preferences about how we work, the
Hmm.
fundamentals of how we approach a problem may actually be quite similar. And so a lot of times in the strengths piece, we can start to kind of um, pull down some of those lines between the generations, because now we're talking a language that we all have. And it
Hmm.
doesn't really matter how old we are or how long we've been in the business or how long we've been in the industry. because deliberative is going to look very similar in different in all those places. So I think strengths plays a role for sure. Meeting people where they are is really important. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting that I learned there is this idea of reverse mentoring. So what I've seen organizations also start to do is recognize that the traditional ways of mentorship are useful 100%. And that is where we've got an older, more experienced person mentoring a younger person. But we know that the younger sort of generation, right, has a very different upbringing, very different skill set than the person they might be working for. And so there's also this reverse mentorship where maybe they're teaching someone else in the company a technology. And so we're putting people not necessarily on, there's not like the hierarchy, if you will, and there's not this, you're better than me or you know more than me. It's, I know things you don't, and I know things you don't.
Right.
And everybody at the table knows something that someone else doesn't, independent of what generation they might sort of come from. And we can all learn from each other. We just have to create a culture that wants to cultivate that and wants that to be a part of who we are. And we can put programs in place to make sure that happens.
And I love that. And I love the fact that the right companies that want to grow their culture, so they're going to, work on this and then not come back to it? Or is it something that people consistently can work on, because things are going to change? People, how people go back into their old habits or they forget things, right? So I doubt it's a one and done, but what do you see?
No, I mean, honestly, I see a little of everything. So I think I've definitely worked with organizations where, they have a budget for development, they want to use it. And so they're going to kind of pull the trigger on this one thing. And I'm going to come in and do a half day or a full day. And then I may not hear from them until this time next year. And then we're going to do it again, using that same kind of set budget. So that it's certainly a model, and I understand the model. I think what I've seen in organizations is that if we can have a slightly longer runway for change, then we're really going to be able to affect kind of that systemic cultural shift that organizations, I think, are looking for, where they can improve their retention, they can keep their best people longer, they can create really connected organizations. And so that's going to take that kind of recurring investment and that recurring effort to say, I know that we're busy, and we're going to prioritize your development and the team's development, because in the end, that will increase productivity and increase profitability. But we have to be able to play it as a long game. And sometimes in the training space and in the kind of development space, it's hard to get organizations to see the long game and see the value of it, but that the numbers are absolutely there. So I definitely see both. I certainly prefer the latter.
Oh, 100%. And, it's also a commitment into people, and people recognize when the company is investing in them, right? Because like I said, it's not just a one and done. It's a commitment to not only the organization, but the people within the organization. So So tell me a little bit more. So this is, oh gosh, you're passionate about it, which I love. And so you're really, so are you working mostly with larger companies or smaller? Because I see a fit, of course, 100% for the larger guys in the larger organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the smaller companies? You said more of the growing businesses. I mean, I'm not saying you can't come in and help James and I communicate better, because pretty much anyone probably could do that. That's more personal. So tell me, with strengths, if I took strengths tomorrow, what would it help me identify?
Yeah. So what I like about strengths, because I've certainly done all the others. I'm sort of an assessment junkie of sorts. But what I love about strengths is that it has so much dimension to it. So when you do the strengths report, you're looking at yourself on sort of 34 different planes. And so there's such nuance to it that I feel like it provides this great foundation for kind of who you are, with the detail, not in these four buckets, but in really kind of excruciating detail, which is where a lot of the fun is. And it's where people really start to see themselves a little differently, because it's so specific. If I'm, like the example I gave before, if I'm deliberative, then I'm someone who really wants to keep digging and wants to keep kind of turning over all the stones and make sure we haven't missed anything. And I'm going to mitigate all the risks to the organization or to the project. That's a role not everybody's going to bring. And so being able to see that nuance, I think, helps people see what their value is to the organization uniquely, but then also be able to see that in someone else and go, oh, I don't have that skill. So if I need if I need someone to really help me be deliberative and I don't have it and I want to mitigate risk, I'm going to lean on a partner in the organization who does, because now they can be my blind spot and they can help me see what I wouldn't see on my own. So that's what I think a lot of people really take away is this, just how much depth there is in it. One of my favorite stats from Gallup is that the chance that someone else will have your top 5 in the same order is 1 in 33 million.
Wow.
Right. So I love the response, because that is this to me, this is what this work is. It's about helping people really stake their flag in their uniqueness and helping them grow in that uniqueness in a way that serves themselves and serves the team, the organization, all the other places where they spend their time. So yeah, that's why I love it.
Oh, I love that too. It's another level when it's like you're getting a stamp of approval of who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
it helps build confidence. Yeah. So you're dealing more with the larger companies, the smaller companies.
So my experience so far has been honestly like a little bit of everything. I've had like enterprise level where I, somehow kind of got into an organization and, worked with one team, and then they told another team and they told another team. And so I've
Yeah.
had some of those with global organizations, but then I've also had small nonprofits of a dozen or dozen and a half people. So I've really run the gamut. I think my favorite space tends to be in not necessarily super small business, but in an organization that has a couple of teams. So maybe it's, 30 to 100 people, and they've got a few different, kind of channels that they're working. And so there's just a lot you can talk about with how you can really impact that culture, but they're small enough that you really can talk to everybody and be able to serve everybody. So that's probably my sweet spot. And what I also find is a lot of the really big organizations, sometimes this falls under kind of an HR role. And so they might have their own internal person
Sure.
who
Sure.
is the me. And so sometimes they'll have someone come in from the outside so that they can have that unique perspective. So there's
Absolutely.
also value, we know there's value in, having someone from the outside come in, but it's not probably the norm. For me, it's more in that kind of middle size.
And I can totally see you, like you said before, you've got different departments. So, the whatever marketing or sales dealing with operations, would probably be because those are just different people generally. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be really great to understand kind of why they do what they do and why they have to, and, in a lot of cases they have to do what they do for the role of the job.
Yep, for sure.
Well, again, Jen, we got to talk a little bit what you started off of the conversation saying he loved the Rustin Chamber. So great. Love to hear it. So yeah, what made you join the chamber? How'd you find us?
I had come to one of the 101 kind of
Oh, yeah.
introductory sessions and I was really impressed with kind of the number of things that kind of come with the membership, if you will. But the thing that eventually had me pull the trigger on joining was really the people. Because I went to a couple of events, and what I found is everybody there didn't feel like there was competition, even though there's overlap. It was just people really want to understand, who's your best referral and how can I help you in that way. And so I have appreciated that piece that, every chamber has its own personality, but I think that to me is the thing that makes the Reston Chamber really special, is how much everybody really seems to look out for one another as opposed to feeling like they're competing with one another.
Oh, I totally agree. And I'm glad that you said that too. I really believe that too. There is overlap, but we're all unique in our different way and personalities, but everyone is like, and they genuinely want to help. So I'm really glad that you felt that and you joined it. And so now, yes, you're part of the family. Well, thanks, Jen, for being here again. I really appreciate it. Anything else you wanted to cover that I might have missed?
No, I think that does it. If anyone wants to find me, they can find me at leadwithcuriosity.co. Yeah, that has all the stuff we do and how we do it.
Yeah, we'll make sure that pops up on the screen so everybody can contact you. Again, and you do such great work. Thank you for what you do. I love being introduced to your work and to you. So I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Angela.
So thanks for joining us today and having a great episode with Miss Jen Pasquale. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Stay in touch with us for future episodes. Like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.